It is the 13th of November 2014, and this is the audio podcast, show 134, Some Solo Smash.
Woo.
Well, hey, that was Scott Hewitt. I'm Samuel Freeman, and Adam Manches there as well. Yes, this is the audio podcast. We have news, and we have a review, and there is plunder.
Yes, indeed. And I'm guessing that the show title isn't making reference to a certain brand of mashed potato, but even if it does, you can get in contact with us very easily. You can email show@theaudiopodcast.co.uk. You can Twitter us at the audio podcast, and don't forget, of course, the show notes that we run off are available at theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/134. And now I believe we can get the show started.
Yeah, let's begin with the review, and the review is for Reason 8. Propellerhead have released Reason 8 quite a while ago, and it's quite good. When we first mentioned this, and there was a lot of hype in the lead up to it, I think I was a little bit critical that their key emphasis was on the redesign of the user interface, and I was perhaps a little less enthusiastic about it than I usually am with Propellerhead things. I take it all back. Having actually got hands-on and played with it, the changes they've made to the interface with the browser embedded within the UI, and it's difficult to think of how to describe it beyond the words they've used themselves. But the workflow, I took it as hype when they just went on and on about workflow, but it actually makes it really quick to swap things in and out and change them. So, yep, and really easy to use. In the process of doing this review, my son, who's 8 years old, was interested in looking over my shoulder, so I showed him how to right-click in the empty rack and create a new audio track, and then how to get to the inserts, and showed him how to drag and drop the effects in and to browse the different presets on the different effects. And then I sat back and let him play for ages, actually, quite a long time. And he was really into the delay and the different effects on that, and exploring the ping pong and stuff. But yep, anyway, that's kind of a sideline to it. Like, cool. Is that a selling point that 8-year-olds can get hang of this? Maybe not.
And do you have a video share, a screen share?
No, not today. Not today for this. That's in the past. I've always found that got in the way. Actually, I've always thought that it made the thing a bit slower. But so that's the first feature. Okay,
so the thing I want to know about, Sam, is, from my point of view, was the collaboration for the guitar amplifiers.
Yes, that's the next part. Which they are rack extensions. They do not come pre-installed, as it were. They're not listed on the effects until you go through the rack extension store and download them. They're available with the license. So once you've downloaded them, they become available, and just like with the other stuff, you can now drag and drop it into an insert spot. And yeah, they're good, actually. I find it a little bit, in terms of this workflow thing that's released fast now. When you change settings, it does glitch in a kind of, we're changing the digital thing a bit more than if it was actually analog and you pressed a button. The audio would continue. You might get a crunch or a click. You might get some kind of, audio extra sound, but the actual flow of the sound going through it wouldn't be interrupted in the way that it is with this. I wonder whether or not that's something that Propellerhead could, because they go to all this effort of making the visual so kind of skeuomorphic. When you turn around to the back of the rack, all of the wires wobble and things, as if that makes any difference to the sound, which it doesn't. If they could make the sound a little bit more, if it's, when there's going to be a digital glitch. It's when you plug something or change a setting or switch a switch that involves loading up a new algorithm. It'd be great if they could add in a fake analog scratching noise or something, rather than just have. I mean, that would be more intrusive than just the subtle discontinuity of the digital audio changing. But I don't know, just an idea there.
It's much better that it does that kind of thing, though, than requiring you to hit stop and then swap in whatever and then press play again, isn't it? Because
Yes.
it's really tough to make comparative judgments when you have to stop, load something else in, press play, stop, load something else in, press play, isn't it? Just being able to flip in and out of things is much preferred. But I know exactly what you're meaning. I'm saying it. I've always thought that about Reason. If you're going to make a big deal out of looking like you're emulating a hardware environment, then you might as well go all the way if you're going to.
And it could be an optional thing, of course. Like you can switch off the wobbling of the wires. It would be an option. Yeah.
That's cool. So one of the neat features of the rack extensions is that, if I remember correctly, pretty much everything is available as a 30-day free trial, isn't it? So
it is.
You can kind of play with them, see which ones you like, and then if there's one you like, you can obviously purchase it, but you can just use them. Most of them they work completely. So, if you're working on a really aggressive deadline, you can use one for 30 days. So it's nice to be able to play with things like that, which is really kind of cool. So apart from the new the Softtube amp emulations that were included, and then the polishing of the user interface, which is was something that the older versions of Reason were looking a little bit strange, weren't they, at times? So I think it's cool that they've done that. What else would you have said is what else caught your eye about it?
It is more user interface things when you're moving stuff around. So like the obvious things are it's kind of just got a smooth layout, and the key thing for me is forget what I was going to say. That's hard to describe about the video. But the click volume control used to be a dial that was on the bottom of the user interface. So it would always be at the bottom of the screen. And when you wanted to change the volume, if you wanted to turn the volume down on the click, then you only had about 5 pixels of down dragging. So it was impossible to get it all the way down to low in one movement, because Reason's dials work just on an up-down dragging. They don't change if you go left-right. But so now they've got rid of the dial, and it's now a visual slider to control the volume of the click. It's like little tiny things like that all add up to a much nicer experience for me. Mm.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, and I don't know whether or not this is. I think this is a new thing, but when you're using, I put in some beats to go along with the guitar stuff that I was testing the amplifiers with, and it was possible with the Dr. Rex thing. You can change which loop is being played in the arrangement area in the sequencer much more easily than you used to be able to. So that could have been in a 7 point something update. I'm not sure.
Awesome stuff. Cool.
So I take back my initial hesitance, and I'm now really excited about it again after a little while of being less excited. It's great stuff.
It's just great stuff. That's cool. And how about the general sound? Because the mixer in it is modeled on an SSL desk, isn't it? Now they've kind of remodeled the whole kind of sound of it. So would you have said, I'm saying you really want that kind of thing to be something that's non-obtrusive, and I presume would that be how you describe it, would you say? Or?
Yeah, I mean, that's not new in version 8. That's been there a while. Reason has a very particular sound. It always has. Like it's always going to sound like Reason in a way, and it's very hard to pinpoint exactly where that comes from, but it sounds better than it used to, for sure. The channel strips that you get on there are fantastic. Every channel's got dynamics built in, and control of it's got a good EQ section, and you can control the ordering of the gates and the compressor and the EQ as you would on a big SSL desk. So that's all great. One thing that I did feel was lacking with this whole everything you can drag and drop out of the browser things was that I wasn't able to. It might be possible, but I tried a couple of ways, and I couldn't drag and drop an effect to become a master effects send, because you can have the big model desk that you're talking about, which is the mixer, has 8 FX sends and returns, 8 stereo in and out there, but I couldn't find a way of dragging and dropping from in the same way that you can into the rack and have it come up as an insert. Maybe I was just doing it wrong, but.
Cool. Awesome stuff. Well, if you've never tried Reason, then I've used it a few times and always enjoyed it. Always enjoyed previous versions an awful lot. So Reason 8 is available now. You can download it for free to try it out if you want to, with the ability to the ability to export audio disabled, and you can only open demo version. The demos of released kind of demo versions of the functionality. It is available to go right now. There is also the light version of Reason available as well, which is about $100 for Reason's Essential, and full Reason is about $400. I'm guess working my pricing here. Oh, I got it right. That's awesome. And there is an upgrade offer running as well. If you're running a previous version of Reason, there are upgrade offers available. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep. I suppose part of the thing with the demo version, like it's basically fully featured, but you can't export, as you said, yeah, you cannot export audio, and you can save your work but not reopen it. But also because the soft tube amps show up as any other rack extension would, I don't think you would be able to access them through the demo mode either.
Yeah.
Because
So hold on, you can start a new project, but you can't reopen one you've saved already.
That's correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting take. At least you can save. It's not like a save disabled one where you work on something. But the problem I have with that is, like, you can't. I mean, unless you keep the machine running and the software on and loaded with that thing for hours and hours on end, you know, can you get deep enough into the program to really understand how the whole track creation system works?
Yes and no. I view the demo mode very much as an extension of its modeling of analog equipment. You know, imagine if you were going into somebody's studio, you had a few hours in there, you've got these racks of equipment, but nothing's patched together. And you've got your time in there, and then when you leave, someone else is going to come in and patch it all differently. And when you come back, you're going to have to repatch it. So
that's true, but you can. In that situation, you should come away with your own set of audio files that you've processed with the system, and you can also write down the setup and then go back in there later on and recreate it. So
you can. And in terms of ways around, is this appropriate for a review of a product that we think people should buy? But you can get around it. You can save things in. You can save presets in the combinator, which is a way of having like a mini rack within a rack. Mm-hmm. So the combinator presets, you can save them, and then you can recall the presets. So you can patch stuff into the combinator, save the preset, and then when you go back in demo mode, you can load up that preset. So you don't get your arrangement, but you do get your patching.
Oh, okay. Well, so that's a good little tip. But of course, it's a demo mode, so obviously they want you to buy the software in the end if you get on with it and you like it and you feel like. And obviously you can reopen the stuff you saved in the full version when you buy it. So it's not like that thing is lost forever. Excellent. But anyway, that was a good little overview of Reason, and a thumbs up, it sounds like to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Indeed, so I always think it's nice I think it's important for us for a journalist integrity point, to let people know that Propellerhead sent us a copy for Sam to have a look at. Though having said that, I think most people would be surprised to discover that people send us these free things, considering, as Sam did there, while eventually you came to the conclusion, Sam, that you were quite happy about it, initially the opening remarks of, don't really smack of the I've been given free product and I get it if I say what I'm told to say. So.
Well, indeed. So I've just been reflecting on the, yeah.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned how your son played with it, because, I suppose like a program like Logic or like Pro Tools might be a little bit more intimidating for someone who doesn't know how it works.
Yeah, I think that the kind of the physicality of it, as it were, like the fact that it's modeling boxes of things which he's encountered in his life, and he's very computer literate, and you kind of saw the whole thing. It's quite a game-like in a way, So yeah, all of those features work in its favor. And for him, he was just doing real-time audio processing of a microphone whilst playing with the tracks, so he wasn't doing any recording or anything. He was just changing the effects on his voice.
Always fun, always fun. So, chaps, shall we get into the news?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, let's start with the first piece of news, which is AAX native 64 releases of SSL plugins.
Ooh.
Indeed so. SSL released the AAX ones, so that is native 64-bit versions for Pro Tools users, which means you can now use the SSL. It's Duend. Have I said that right? Do you think?
Duende, I would.
Duende, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you can use with all current versions of Pro Tools 11, HD ones and non-HD ones, and 32-bit and 64-bit ones. So that's been resolved, and there is discount pricing running on those until the 25th of November as well.
Yeah. So 12 days from now, you've got 12 days, people.
Indeed so.
If you're listening to the audio podcast today, the November the 13th. So, yeah.
That's cool. Also, in release news, the long-rumored, many times discussed, finally arrived, and also we've had great fun. I think everybody else has with the preview videos as they were sneaking out. Cycling 74 have announced the release of Max 7.
Yay!
Hooray! And they've done this with a hand-drawn picture. Brilliant. Yeah. Well, a digital image of a hand-drawn picture on the page. I like it.
Oh yeah.
I had a play with Max 7 today.
You did?
I did have a play with it, and I have to be honest with you. My first, I wasn't overwhelmed. Let's put it that way. As somebody who really struggled to find anything in Max 6 that made me think this is something, that kind of was like drawing me to upgrade. Max 7 kind of, there were lots of things that are like have changed unnecessarily. So like I got really wound up because the dial comes in a new way now. It's like as the kind of visual object. So that was quite frustrating for me.
Well, so I mean that happened when they went from 4 to 5 as well.
Well, yes, no, I understand. Yes.
It's been a little while since I've used Max, so I probably won't get this upgrade straight away because I barely used Max 6 for anything, and but I did just get an email like just before the show started saying, because you've been a long-term customer, here's a code for a 30-day trial of Max 7. So that's a nice little thing.
That's very cool. So, something I did notice is that they have changed the pricing actually, and there is actually a new pricing structure, which is a subscription. So you can buy a permanent license for new $400. You can subscribe for $10 a month or $8.25 if you pay 12 months in advance. And the upgrade is $149 for existing, for people with existing license Max licenses.
And that's an upgrade to a permanent version for $149.
Yeah.
Okay, not bad.
Something that interested me was the subscription price, actually, to be perfectly honest, because as somebody who's been more than satisfied with their Max 5 for many years now, as I've been, and I have to, like for
Scott, come on, let's be obvious. Max 7 probably doesn't run on your computer, does it?
I don't know. Have you seen what the let's find out. I have a new computer actually.
The subscription thing is interesting for me because whenever I do installation things, I try and get the ideal situation is just to have runtime running on whatever the host computer is going to be and just have the patch run through that. But oftentimes you want to tweak things, with the final text setup, not have to bounce back and forth between computers. So I often end up putting my own license, my own serial number onto that computer, or at least authorizing it that way. And then at the end of things, I have to try and make sure I uninstall it so I haven't got hundreds of licenses all over the place. Although that, with the subscription things, you could have Max running in a location in a better way for a short period of time. I don't know.
Indeed. And now we've got
the minimum requirement now is 10.7.
10.7. Look at that.
Mm-hmm. Which is really sad, actually. I'm really happy on.
Well, yeah, we've covered this many times before on the audio podcast, and I know you're very happy with 10.6, but you know, time moves forward, and
Well, I know what I'm saying. I'll diverge momentarily. I did actually recently acquire a new computer. I was telling Adam briefly before this, and it was a Windows 7 machine. I booted Windows 7. I was going to give it I was like, hey, I'll just have a little play with it, see how it goes. And when it crashed in the middle of loading Notepad, after about 7 minutes of using it, that was me done. So
you see, that's weird because I don't think that happens to a lot of people. There must be something you're doing to it, like. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Part of our late running today is to do with, well, that wasn't Windows 7, that's Windows 8, and we could easily do a Windows bashing session. I'm going to hold back.
I'm
not to say this week.
I'm not going to because
on that subject.
I've got nothing.
Let's summarize it really quickly. If you don't know what Max is, then it's a patching environment. It's a really great introduction to programming, and I think we all have to be honest. It's a lot of fun to play with for loads of things. And if you've never tried it, you should definitely try it out. There's a demo version available, and I think, to be perfectly honest, the new monthly subscription is a great idea, because rather than having to do £400 for something with a huge learning curve that takes a while to get into,
$400.
Yeah, $400. That kind of a little bit every month while you're interested in and enjoying it is a great option. So if you've never used Max, I would definitely recommend checking it out. And I think Max 7 is even more exciting and interesting for people who don't have any sort of programming experience. I think that's something I know that Zuccarelli and the team were really keen to work on, and I think they've done a great job of that, which is really cool.
And to speak favourably of the new features that are in there, the stuff with the new handling of GL, I've done a lot of stuff with JitterGL, and yeah, I haven't played with them yet, but from the previews, some of the new features they've added in that area just make life so much easier. And yeah.
Do you like it?
Okay, guys, let's move on from Max to IK Multimedia. Two stories.
Let's take the first one. IK Multimedia are already in holiday mode. I think it's great. Holidays are indeed coming. They've got some new bundles available using some of their new products recently announced, and they're available on some discounted pricing, which is awesome. And as well as some holiday deals that IK Multimedia are running, they have updated
SampleTank for iOS, so it now supports the iRig, and it works with iOS 8.
Yay!
Cool.
Yay! And we had a little group of two there, and we've got another two stories now that actually are linked together. First is that YouTube's music subscription service, which is called Music Key, should be going to beta next week. So you can't just sign up. It's an invite-only thing. So if you get an invite, I think it's free while the beta's running, and then after the beta's finished, then you can get a little discount on the monthly cost of it. But it's basically, I think it's YouTube trying to be a legitimate music service, paying the artists correctly, and also you don't have to experience ads, and the music is in higher quality, I guess, if it's available in higher quality. So yeah,
that sounds like a good idea. Like, yeah, I'd be interested in, because people do use music for people do use YouTube for listening to music. This is how it seems to go. Like, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, people tend to put full albums on YouTube a lot, and there have been a few albums which I couldn't find a good stream for, which I found on YouTube, and I've listened to them and I've been like, oh, that's a good album, I go and buy it, or I didn't like that so much, let's not bother. No, you go.
Sorry, I thought you'd done, but you hadn't. Well, yeah, a bit more cynical is my next comment, which is that the name of this thing is almost as good as the Google's music service, whatever that's called, Music Key. How do you say that easily? It's got two K's in the middle.
Well, also, I think when you're signed into this, you also get access to to streaming off Google Play Store as well. So it's not just YouTube music that's on YouTube, but there's also an access into the wider Google Play Store. And so that's from one service to another, and that is
Oh, no, don't go too far.
Oh,
No, I have to stop you momentarily. I threw this in as a last-minute comment because while I think we're all kind of quite excited about this, this kind of development for YouTube, some people that aren't, which is quite fun. But a gentleman called Irving Azoff, who is somebody I don't particularly know very well, but he apparently is the management representation for people like the Eagles and John Lennon, is very unhappy with YouTube Music Key and is actually threatening to remove all of his acts from YouTube.
oh.
So that would be apparently 20,000 tracks will disappear if he carries out his threat.
Okay, well, we'll see if he's got the power to do that. Alongside YouTube, Bandcamp have also announced a subscription service. Now they have, in the last few months, they brought out an app so you can actually stream your Bandcamp purchases into the app, and also you can stream stuff that's available to stream for free. But now it's a subscription service, so it's kind of like, rather than a Spotify subscription where you're subscribing to Spotify, in Bandcamp's one, the artist sets up the subscription and you're paying the artist the subscription, and Bandcamp take a slice of it.
What kind of pricing level is this likely to be at then?
Well, they had one example, which is a band called Candy, which I think was £20 a year, but they said it could be more expensive than that, which to me is a bit mad because, okay, Spotify, yes, because you're getting access to all this music for one price, but if you're the idea with this is if you're really into a particular band, then you can sign up. You can subscribe to them, and then whenever they release new music, you'll get access to it straight away. You don't have to spend any money, and also there'll be certain types of material that the artist can make available exclusively on Bandcamp subscription. So to me, it's still not quite clear exactly how it works, but it was a significant story anyway, because it's like it's a little sideways move, I think, for Bandcamp.
There's a lot of things happening in the streaming space at the moment, isn't there, as well, in general? I know we don't have the story in our show notes, and I might just put it in as a quick comment, but there's a big ongoing argument regarding Spotify again, because like just this week, Taylor Swift label announced that they were going to withdraw everything from Spotify, citing the fact that Spotify were going to pay them less than $500,000 for the entire, in terms of what they were actually planning on earning. So they were just pointing out that you can be the highest, I think Taylor Swift was the highest played person on the entirety of Spotify, and in total was going to receive that sort of level of revenue. So in terms of, it's a lot of money, obviously, but in terms of in terms of the sustainability of the industry, it wasn't acceptable. Now, I know that Spotify are arguing back, saying they were actually planning on paying $6 million, which strikes me as a huge discrepancy. Well, it is. It's 5.5 million. I'm saying that's,
yeah, it's 12 times more.
You know what I mean? So it's interesting as to whose number is right, because they're obviously, both probably miles away from what the number actually was. But it's kind of interesting what it is. I worry that what you're seeing, what Google are doing, is actually a little bit of a power play, which is to say Spotify are in trouble, people like Radio are not doing particularly well, the Apple and Amazon services are kind of moving along a bit. So there is there is an opportunity for people with a lot of money, something like YouTube, and I think Apple would probably do this as well, to push everybody else out of the space purely by buying the artists into their services. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how this is going to develop.
I think what's interesting about the Bandcamp thing, though, is that I'm a big fan of Bandcamp, both as a person who uses it to distribute my music, but also I tend to get a lot of music from there too, and it's very hands-on. It feels like you're not using a service to get through to the music you want to listen to. You've got a direct link, because it's like, this is the person, and they've put their music up on Bandcamp, and now I'm listening to it. So there's a really nice kind of connection. I find that, and I think that same thing will happen with the subscriptions. But I think people will use the subscriptions in a slightly different way on Bandcamp because it's a bit of an oddball thing.
Indeed, cool. Yeah.
Audiobus, Scott. AudioBus.
Audiobus, yeah. So this is a nice. I thought this was a really nice contribution from the Audiobus guys, but they've announced their intention to maintain an issues database for audio apps on iOS 8, which when you go and have a look, you actually discover is a way of them publicizing the things they can't fix, which are broken, and they'd like Apple to get sorted as soon as possible. But at the same point, it's still useful to have a kind of solid list of things that won't work no matter what, and I suspect it's also quite useful from them as a support exercise in terms of if you look here, you'll easily be able to see that the thing you're planning on telling them doesn't work, they know doesn't work, and not only that, they're also kind of shifting the blame to somebody else. So cynically, there's a cynic in me which is like, yeah, this is working for them really well. At the same point, it is actually really useful. I made reference to it yesterday when I was working on a project, and I had a weird problem happen, and yes, indeed so, it was one that they were aware of. So I was like, oh, okay then, it's a known problem, carry on with my day. So,
Sweet.
I liked it.
And another, well, I say another OS-based thing, but it's not really because Audiobus isn't an OS-based thing.
Yes.
Go on.
What?
I wasn't sure where you were going with that link, but I suspect that Adam is leading us to our final piece of news, which is that Electron have announced the release of an update for the analog 4 keys to version OS 1.12. So, there you go.
Yay! And if I can, gentlemen, before we go into the plunder, a quick short other section, which is what are our pictures today? What are our YouTube cameras trained on today?
Okay, today I've put the camera on the little Behringer Xenix USB thing, which I run my microphone through and USB into the audio, thereby getting my voice LED measurement thing going.
It's a nice bit of visual feedback. Scott, yours is very dark.
I'm sorry it's very dark. It's actually lying on the floor, which was the only place in the timescale I had where I could arrange things. But it's actually the top right-hand corner of a Oxygen 8 version 2 M-Audio keyboard.
Very, very nice. And I have under my camera the Novation Nocturne, which is a control surface which I always forget the name of. Whenever I want to talk about it on the audio podcast, the name of it completely slips my mind. It has been referred to as the one that Graham Booth has. So in the future, if I forget the name, that's the one I'm thinking of. This is it right here.
In the future, Adam, we should see if we can guess the pictures, because I actually recognised that just then. But, yeah.
I was thinking it would be quite fun. I made sure not to put the name into the camera, and I was thinking, oh, we could have a little guess on it. It's a bit like the old quiz that we used to do.
Yeah.
Talking about the old quiz, we are approaching that time of the year. The audio podcast quiz will return as a way to idle away your time between Christmas and New Year, when we also have a holiday. There you go, just a little sneak peek of that. But with that said, it must surely be plunder time.
I'm kicking off with
Sam.
Well, I'm going to go to the second piece of plunder, which I was aware of. This other one I've not seen till now. So, The Birth of British Electronic Music. This is a documentary that was made by an Australian director. In fact, in 2006, it's been played at lots of different film festivals, including South by Southwest in 2008, and it's called What the Future Sounded Like. It's a 27-minute documentary, and it focuses on EMS and where they came from, the kind of social, political climate in which they existed in the early 60s through into the 70s, and it's quite informative and entertaining.
I enjoyed it. I watched it just before I came online into the Hangout, and yeah, it was a really good. I kind of knew the background of it because I would have read the history of this kind of stuff in the old retro synth articles in Sound on Sound like 10 years ago. But still, it's good. it was good to see the actual people be interviewed who were actually involved. So Peter Zinoviev, Tristram Carey, and David Cockrell. Cockrell or Cockram?
Cockrell, I believe, but I may be wrong.
It's one of those two, and the birth of the EMS VCS3 and the Synthi and all this kind of stuff. It's a very fun one.
Includes the kind of factoid that I'd love to. I want to check this, but it definitely says that the first privately owned computer was purchased by one of these people, and for the purpose of making music. How cool is that?
Indeed. And Sam, when you say that that's the second one, do you mean it's the third one? Because we've actually got.
Oh, is there two there? Okay.
Because there's Web Winamp, which I guess.
That's one I thought you
Oh,
were
that
gonna-
was me. Sorry, I completely skipped. I missed that. Sorry, I scrolled down too far on the show notes. I'm well prepared today. Should we do it in reverse order then? Should we put that last?
Indeed, so
Okay.
so I should take responsibility for this. If you two, well, one of the things I love about YouTube is the plethora of parodies of popular songs that we get to enjoy. So if you are outraged by the feminist issues raised with the song that is in the charts at the moment everywhere, all about the bass, then I have for you two covers that you can enjoy, which are one of which is absolutely spectacular as a Star Wars parody, which is entitled "All About the Bass," spelled differently, which is kind of fun. And
that bass.
and if you are of a northern persuasion, then you from the northeast, as I grew up in the northeast, then there is the "All About the Bass" Geordie cover, which is utterly spectacular if you're from the northeast. If you're not from the northeast, it will probably not be quite as funny, but it's still fun.
There we go. And finally,
Web Winamp. This is Winamp 2.js. Somebody has, using the HTML5 and JavaScript now recommendation, the web audio stuff, re-implemented Winamp 2.9, is it?
Yeah, that's what you're in.
Winamp 2.9, which is the classic one. Winamp got a bit. I lost interest after this version. We've talked about Winamp many a time, and now you can have it there in your browser. It uses the original skin files, so any of the Winamp skins that may or may not exist around the internet will work with this JavaScript, and it enables you to play audio in the browser. And yeah,
awesome.
you can play local files from your hard drive, or you can load URLs, and it's quite good. Yeah, the EQ doesn't seem to, the button, you can click it, but that doesn't pop up. More coding could be done there, and yeah, but I don't think the panning works, or maybe it does. I can't remember if I tested that. But yeah, it comes preloaded with the llama whipping intro, if anyone remembers that. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
That's
And a feature that I didn't notice at first is that it's actually, you can drag it around within the window. It took me a while to notice that, but it loads up in the top left corner of the web page, but you can reposition it, and it has the original cursor icons come up as well.
And it's an open source project, isn't it? It's on GitHub.
Yes, it's 100% open source, and it requires no libraries or anything. It's just plain old JavaScript with plain old HTML5. No, not so old, because it's actually only in the past couple of weeks that HTML5 has become a actual recommendation by the W3C.
Cool. And with that, I think we can call this episode of the audio podcast at its end.
Excellent stuff.
Fantastic.
So if you've enjoyed the audio podcast, feel free to hit the subscribe button either on YouTube or iTunes.
Gpodder, Stitcher.
Am I still on this week? Hello?
Yeah, you're still there, Sam.
Sorry, it all went quiet. I don't know. I thought something broke. This was the audio podcast show 134. Therefore, the notes or the links we've been talking about can be found at theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/134.
Okay, guys. Let's say goodbye. I have been and will continue to be Adam Yanch.
I'm Samuel Freeman.
And I am Scott Hewitt. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.